Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Thursday. It's amazing how much of the week has gone by. It's so fast. That's okay. We'll get there. So every so often, I like to take a little break and do some work and try to kind of practice a few things. And my painting skills are always something left to be desired. So I'm going to continue working on my painting skills today, because we're going to take a break real quick and just kind of work on painting skills. So that's what we've got going on today. Let me show you what we've got going on here. I know you're shocked on Picard. I found this great picture of Jean-Luc, and so I'm going to real quickly take this. We're going to call it my sketch layer here. Right. What we've got here is we've got this lovely picture of Patrick Stewart, and he's in his old uniform. And so I'm just going to take this picture and use it to just give me guides of where everything is. Because that's what we're going to need for this, right? We're going to need some guidance as to the shape of his. I probably shouldn't have it in white though. Shape of his head, his ear. Sir Patrick here. And all I'm doing is just getting the basic outlines of where everything is for this picture. And the picture itself is somewhat... I'm actually going to add the collar. Hello, Fred. I'm doing a little bit of Patrick Stewart here work. Right, we're going to just get sort of the shape of his nose here. I need to practice my painting, and so my thought was we could draw Sir Patrick real quick, paint up this painting here. Make kind of a cool little quick painting here. But I want to practice this technique that I have found. Yep, I'm totally put this up here and put that right there, and then come back around that later. Alright, so just kind of do this. The thing about Patrick Stewart is he's very recognizable as Patrick Stewart. I mean, even when we remove this, that's very recognizable as Patrick Stewart. This is not that hard. Okay. I'm going to define a few little bits for this sketch because we want to kind of identify some of the pieces in the structure of his face. Like, for instance, this. Right? We're going to go ahead and just do that a little bit right there. And that's going to tell me that I've got this highlight through here that I've got to kind of do. He's got just a little bit of that bump in the nose right there. All right? I'm going to give him a couple of the wrinkles here to make him so lovably Captain Picard. There we go. Just like that. And we're just want to give just enough guidance to know what we're going to have to deal with later, right? So we're just giving. Is it real? No, it's not. That's not his ear. I'm like, these don't line up. They don't line up. That lines up. Now his ear's lining up. Right? He's got a little bit of a divot there. I'm not really that worried about the fact that this isn't a high quality picture. It really isn't important. We're going to try to define this area there. And all of this is because the sketch is irrelevant. Does he have cheekbones? I don't think so. I mean, it looks like he doesn't really have high cheekbones at all. Doesn't it? Looks like he sleeps well, though. He doesn't have that much of the baggy... doesn't have a real baggy, like, under his eyes or anything like that. Not bad. I mean, could be far worse. Let's make sure we get exactly what we're looking for here like this. There we go. The interesting thing about Sir Pat Stew, what do they call him? What do you want to call it? Pea Stew? Pea Stew? Yeah. Pea Stew. Really interesting thing is he has a very Asian epicanthic fold over his eyes, which I find really interesting. I'm going to put him back into his Starfleet hair here. Where he had a small amount of hair on either side. So, seems like a good idea to me. There we go. Alright. I'm getting pretty happy with this sketch. Feel kind of like... Yeah, I've noticed he doesn't have cheekbones too. Which, he's got a very interesting mix of features as far as ethnicity goes. Find that fascinating in a lot of ways. Interesting that now he looks a little bit more like the Doctor from Voyager. We'll fix that. It'll be fine. Okay, so we're going to take the flats now and put in our flat colors. And the way we're going to do this is first thing we're going to do is duplicate this layer, and then I'm going to do this really interesting quick trick. We're going to pixelate and crystallize. I'm just going to take it a second here and bring up the cell size. Right? And what this is going to do, this is going to give me specific color combinations that I can use. There we go. We've also made a really interesting stylized picture of Patrick Stewart here. But now I've got all these color gradients that I can use as part of my this will be easy for me to make. So I'll try to take my median color. Looks like this color right about there is my median color. So I'm going to take that color. I don't know, maybe I like this color a little bit better. I think that color is probably a little more like the median I'm looking for. And then we're going to go back to our sketch. And we're just going to paint that in. I'm going to give myself a big brush for this. I'm going to go through a lot of this, right? I'm going to have to go through. There we go. And this is just the flats. That's what we call flatting a picture. Sounds like a personal problem. There we go. Come back around like this. The good news is the t-shirt he was wearing at the time of this picture is roughly the color that we're going to want for the end result here. Look at the color flats. Like this color right here is perfect for the Starfleet uniform, the First Contact style uniform, the gray shirt he was wearing underneath. So you can take that and put this in here like this. There we go, just like that. We'll just do this, and that gets that color in real good right here. Bring this down a little bit to get more detail in. We're still in the rough stage, so we'll just do as rough as we can out here. Rough. Just gonna go around this corner here, come around the back here, like this. He's already established with this here, we've already established exactly what shade of red and everything this is, so this becomes pretty easy what shade of red and black we're dealing with out here. I want to lay in the black and the red and all of the big swaths of color. I'm going to lay it in pretty quick and early, because then, and I don't have to worry about small details, not yet. If we do this quick and early, then I don't have to worry about when I come back through to do the smaller details. I'm going to find the median color, which is right up there. When we come back in to do the bigger details, it's not going to matter as much. The small details will be able to fit really well in here, and I can always just hit the what's its key? Alt key. And that'll give me just like that. Now we can start looking at what holes we have, because we've got some serious holes in our color, but that's okay. Right? There. There. We'll even go a little above this line. Make sure that that just covers everything. Because then I can just hit Alt. Another feature that Photoshop has gotten rid of, which makes me sad, is now right mouse button toggles between my eraser and my pen, which is, I actually have two buttons right here that do that job. So now that's not as useful anymore as Alt. Alt was a much more useful thing to have on the back button of my pen. And every so often we'll get a feature update that I'm not as fond of. And that's wonderful. So, that's the way it goes. 'Tis the nature of things. Zoom in. Take this brush and bring it down. I'm just going to come in here just along this line like this. Right along here. Doesn't matter if we're perfect. Not right now. We don't have to be that accurate. Not yet. Should. I just now realized that I've left my Google Drive running, and it really should be stopped. Because Google Drive is trying to download everything to from the Google Drive to my computer, even as we speak. This, and like this, and like this, and just plug in all these little holes that I made right through here. I can only hope to have a chin as strong as this guy when I'm his age. We'll go right here. We're just trimming out this area. Making sure that everything is nice and trim. It's like giving him a haircut. I'm not the barber. You're wondering who I am? I'm clearly not. That's who I am. There we go. Right. And now we have your parody song for karaoke. You know, Fred. And Hanna-Barbera. He's got Hanna-Barbera. And that's your karaoke song. Okay. I think we've trimmed this up enough. This is practice, so Doesn't have to be beautiful. But I do want to figure out what color his eyes are. Speaking of Hanna-Barbera eyes. And I think that's our color right there. Work. So, I'm going to go in here, turn this on. I'm going to take that color. Because he's got green eyes. So, as a side note, I know you were making a joke. However, you are not entirely wrong. Right? This cell right here is his lips. So we'll turn that. Just a little bit. You're not entirely wrong, because Hanna-Barbera was known for what they call rotoscoping, which is where they would take, and everybody's like, what have you done? This looks horrible. Just trust me on this. It works. Hanna-Barbera would take a photograph of the actor and then do exactly what I just did, except with ink. They'd they'd take the photograph, they'd print it, lay a cell over the print, and then trace the figures. Which is why you get Hanna-Barbera eyes. These eyes that are not quite right. They're close. You're like, but not quite. We're also going to take this, which actually should be a little bit more gray. I feel like we'll make it over here, make it gray. This will be his eyes, or the scalia for his eyes. But that's one of the reasons why you're getting that impression that his eyes are Hanna-Barbera. Here we go. We're just getting scalia for the eyes. Zoom back out. All right, and close there. So, okay. We put in the flats. We're going to move to the next. Oh, yeah, that too. Okay. Now that we've done the flats and the colors like this, we're going to do some basic shading. So I'm going to take the flats line and I'm going to duplicate it because I don't want to lose it. Right? Because we're going to start working direct on this. Right here. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about our colors. When we choose colors, one of the things that a lot of people do, and I used to do this too, and this is one of the things I need to practice, is they would just add black or add white. But the truth is, we need to go back and forth across the hue and saturation, and that's the HSL that we want to deal with, this HSL part, right? So instead of, we want to go this way to darker and that way, along the saturation line, instead of going up and down along the brightness line. Be heading this way to a darker color. Right? Now, one of the reasons I used this basic shading, this flats and left it, was so that I can do more of the work in the area here with an airbrush color instead of this. So we're going to take an airbrush. See if he's got anything useful that I can use down here. It's like an airbrush rock. Nah. He just has He's got some good brushes, but I don't think there's anything I can use here. So I'm going to take we're just going to go in here and just define some of the darker sides of this here and just give right, we're going to give some definition to his face right through here. Right through like this. From this point forward, I don't need that reference picture. We're going to be working on different shadows anyway. We're working on like a different way of handling this altogether, so I'm not that worried at this point in time. Right. And so then I'm just going to take my smudge tool, where I have lost it. There's my smudge tool. This smudge tool is very useful for this. It'll smooth out a lot of this, right? It's just going to smooth it in, right? That's all we're doing in here. It's just smoothing this in. I want to make sure that whenever I smudge, I go in and out through this wrinkle set right here. Right? That's pretty important. We're just smoothing this all in. Really working it in here. And all this is doing is just smoothing out this line between everything here. We don't want it to be that dramatic. Right? Like I said, he's got this epicantral fold, which I find fascinating. He always has. It's very Asian, even though I don't know how much Asian blood he has. I'm going to go ahead and go underneath these bags into the eye a little bit here and just kind of run around this side. Right. I've already decided and defined with this line right here, this is where his nose is. So I want to be kind of careful with that. Come up here and just kind of smooth this one out. We're just smoothing out all of this. That's not quite as dramatic. We already look not like our dear, lovely doctor. Now I'm going to drop the saturation a little. Just come in here and just kind of do a little bit more, kind of just right through here, especially right there, right through here, and under here. Right here, just to kind of define this temple. Here, same thing. Do a little bit of definition, just along the outside edge. And This is just a little bit more of the heavier coloring, right? Because we want it under his nose a little bit more like this, and right under here under his lip. And go back in, just smooth that out, blend that in. Right, same thing right through here, just blend it in. Follow this curvature of the nose. Make sure I don't lose that right there. Right. There we go, just like that. We're just blending this all in. We're just kind of making sure that this fits this lineage right through here. And out onto that. We're just smoothing it out so that it's all not so dramatic here. Well, now that we've done that, we need to kind of do some highlight work too. We're going to need to do some highlight work. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go the other direction on the hue. And I'm going to bring it up to right there. This is where we want to kind of just hit right here, right across here, and right through here. And then right up through here. Right? And then right here. We're just hitting the highlights of the face. Right? We're just not... Here, we go just like this. We'll merge these in as well. Just like this. The thing about the face is, and this is one of those things that people don't quite get, in coloring, color theory, especially men, we've got blue areas right here, here, and here, and then red areas right here. So we've got to go red here and then blue here. And when you do color, that's important because it makes it look more realistic and lifelike, because we know that that's the case. We just don't see it very often. Right? So we're going to kind of go through here like this. Do this. And we're just going to smooth this in with that. Right? Make it blend a little more. Right? Now we're getting there. We're getting a lot of good basic shading coming in through here. Because he's male, in the next one of these I'm going to have to try to do a female one, because males can be a little rougher, and we're okay with it. We tend to think that that's fine. We tend to not think it's weird. But we're kind of getting there on this. It's moving along. I can see that on the monitor it looks a lot more dramatic than it is. The other thing we're going to start doing here is now trying to delineate the sketch. Without the sketch, you can start to see some of what's coming in. But that really changes a lot of this. So I want to go ahead and put the sketch down some, and then we're going to go ahead and start defining some of the very dark areas. Right? We go through here, we're going to into his eye. All right, we're going to want to put in through here. And then these little areas right through here. That helps a whole lot. Right? It helps us sort of define a little bit of this. And we'll move that in a minute here. We'll get this guy and we'll move it in. And then it won't be as much of a... Oh, this is all on the sketch layer. Boy, I screwed that up, didn't I? Ha ha ha, you're funny. Okay, basic shading. Let's try that again, this time on the correct. You have to stop. But why? Because you're on the wrong layer. Okay, so right through here, we've already got kind of a very dramatic brown, right? And that looks really dramatic. So I'm only going to do the eyes with this one, this brown. There we go, just like that. I'm going to take the sketch off because we've got kind of this weird, like, connection between the brown and the purple here. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to just bring this out and around. We'll have to come back in here and work on this at some point, but not right now. We're just trying to get the basic color and everything worked out. Alright, so we're going to just do this. Come around here with this. And all we're doing here is just putting in the basics. We're still very early on in this. Same thing kind of going on over here. And the sclera here that's what this is called. That's that white area that's on the outside of your eye. So we're going to do that. I'm going to go on this inside line just like this. There we go. So now when we pull back out again, you can actually see quite a bit of definition there, right? And that's one of the key things. Now with this, we're going to put this back on, and I'm going to, it's easier to just click there. I'm going to take the darkest color I can find here, and we're going to go darker through here to about there. We'll get the brush out. We're just going to define some of these wrinkled areas. And we'll get back to this in a second. Alright, we want to just establish the face, having some of this like roughness about it, you know? Right through here. Like this. Right through here like that. Right? All this area right through here is dark. And that's dark. And he has dimples. Hi, I see that we're not working. There we go. He has a dimple right through here. That's going to have to come in too. The other thing I want to do is just define his jawline, right? Come on under here and then defining his jawline. The defining features of Pat Stew is his defined jawline, so we're going to take that. I'm going to turn off the sketch now. And now I'm going to come back in with this, and I'm just going to smudge it out, right? I'm going to soften it up. And when I do, it's going to mix in more with this. And I'm going to get definition across it. And as long as I pull down, it ends up fine. Right. There we go, just like that. And I'm naturally getting this white line now to define across it. Right? That works really well too. When I push in the little circles like this, it brings it up. And then I can bring it around like this. And this gives me enough of a shadow to define that it's here, but not so dramatic that it's lost in the cause, you know? Not so dramatic that it stands out is what I guess I'm looking for. Stands out. There we go. And you can see it. That gives just a little bit of sharpness through here, but not enough to do too much to it. The same thing over here. Smudge that in. I'd kind of come through here and get rid of some of this white area right there. Now we've got this under here. The same thing. Right, now what we're doing is we're just giving a little bit of definition there. Same thing right here. This is dimple, his cheek. And then like this. We're just gonna define the underside of his face here. That's all we're doing. But the smooth tool helps so much on this. The smudge. Because now I can go through here and just kind of straighten this out. There we go. Just like that. We're definitely starting to look more like him in here. Take this smudge tool. A whole lot in here, just enough to tell that we're doing this. We'll come back in and highlight stuff later. But I don't want to lose these wrinkles. There's so much a part of him in definition. I'll have to come back in and fix this a little. But for right now, we're just going to kind of do this. Just a little bit in here. Now we can kind of smooth them out. One actual thing I might do is just go ahead and lightly paint over those wrinkles up there because I don't want them to be that dramatic. I'm going to turn this up so that the pressure is opacity. I'm just giving a light tap too. Not a whole lot. All right. Now we have a very abstract painting of Jean-Luc Domremy. It's very abstract. Let's go ahead and let's bring this back in. Bring it up because it does need to come up. the other things we're going to do at this point in time is some deep colors. Like we've got some real deep colors in here that we want to make sure we have. Like his nose, and we're going to have to make sure his nostrils are very deep colored because that makes some sense. I'm going ahead and just do a soft round brush in here. Just right along here. And we'll smooth these out right there. But there's these deep depressions that we get into, like right through here. Ooh, that's maybe too much brush. Let's get ourselves a less brush. Okay. We got the same thing kind of going with, like, what are we going to do about his eyebrows, right? Probably not that brush. Kind of want soft round pressure size so that the pressure changes my brush. Right. No matter what, even men have eyelashes, right? Just not big ones. Turn that sketch off, and now we're getting a little bit better, right? We're getting a lot closer to what we're looking for in the picture. Not perfect, but better. It's always kind of a rough trip to try to get to that point. So okay, so we're going to refine the picture now. This is what we're going to do. Is like take the color here. I'm just going to go black. Kind of going along with this. And smoothing it in. Same thing as before. We work this into the painting. When smoothing stuff, we want to kind of work in the direction of the skin. The skin, especially up here on the cheek, moves down. Move this around like that. Kind of want to. And this just helps us kind of guide where the highlights of his face are. Now, Sir Pat, I'm noticing, is not as pink on the sides. He's more bluish all over. So I'm just kind of working this kind of thing. I actually kind of want to also put a little bit of highlight right through here. This is kind of a highlight of his face, right? Just like that. Do the same thing over here. We're just... There we go. Just like this. So... There. So all I'm doing here is just defining these areas under here. And now the painting's looking a lot better. We need to do work with his eyes, but we're getting there, right? Not as much definition on his lips. His lips just kind of go from being this pink into the skin tone. But we are going to get that mouth through there at some point, so we're going to have to work on that in a minute. But first, I'm going to blend this in. There we go. Now bring that sketch in. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take this brown that we have up here and just snag it a little bit here and go all the way down to very small. You just need just a little bit through here. And smudge. This will give me good definition through here. And that little bit of a curve makes him look like he's smiling. Right? And we'll come back through and we'll clean that up even more. And give him highlights and lowlights and stuff like that. But for right now, this is enough to define where we're going. We'll smudge it in. There. We just want the impression of pink. We don't need pink. Now, if we look at the original picture, which is down here, right? The thing that we're looking at here is there's some dramatic shadow here, but so we've got to kind of clean up his eyes, as it looks like here. Right? Because what we're missing with our Picard is that this needs to be more like this. To give that apicanthal fold that he's got going for him here. The same thing over here. We've got to kind of give room for that. And he's raising an eyebrow in this, so I want to pull the skin this way. The other thing we really want to do right now is grab this color right here and then define right along here, because that's what we're missing. A bit more brush. All right, we want really that. Need to go over my eyelashes here, but we really need to bring this in right through here. Got a lot of fold coming in through here, and he's got this sort of kind of going up sort of thing. So we'll do this. There. What we're doing really is just kind of coming through here like this. And just giving some darkness in here. I really kind of want to bring it down through here, right? Bring it into that color right through here. Bring some darkness into this area. Bring some darkness right into here. And this, we can just smudge in right through here. And pull it down. And this, we'll just work this into. And we'll come back in and define a line in this in a minute. But for the moment, one of the problems I'm having is that doesn't see how flat this eye looks versus this eye, which is now looking a lot more rounded and fleshed out. We're getting a lot more of this coming up through here, like that, which is giving some definition as well. There we go. Just through here like this. Right? And this side's going to be the same way. We're going to end up with this real dark spot right here. Just like this. Right? And really dark right through there. I'm going to go ahead and just push that out. And then bring that on down. This is going to go all the way into this eye area here. And then we'll work it over to this side. There we go. Like that. Right? And so we're then going to move this darkness up and over this eye. Now, he has sort of this extra little bit of a fold on top there, which just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. Not a lot, not a whole lot at all. You want to make sure that these two merge together, though. Right? All we're doing here is basic shading. This is just the basic shading, right? Wow, we're an hour early for running out of coffee. Uh-oh. That's not good. Okay. I'm just going to go in here, and I'm just going to touch back through here. I want this to really be dark through this zone over through here. So, come back out just basic shading like this. Smooth this all. Smooth it all. There we go. This will be great. This will be good. I'm pretty pleased with this. And so this up here. Now we're getting there. We're getting there well. It's doing good. Also, while we're in this, I really should be drinking Earl Grey. I really should. You'd think that that'd be what I'd be drinking right now, but I'm not. It does make you wonder about me, doesn't it? There we go. Just like this. I'm going to bring that in. Tea, Earl Grey, hot. There we go. And I'm just smoothing this all in real nice and pretty. Using a larger smoothing brush. And just kind of hitting the areas along the side of the face. Just kind of line up all my lines. Right? All of these lines need to be. There we go. Just smoothed out. Right? There we go. Just like that. Perfect. Just like that. Now, the other thing we want to do is catch these eyes, right? Because the eyes are still very bland and they look not they don't look very distinct at this point. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to take this color and we're going to go down and head this way. We're going to come in here and just along the bottom here and then right along this top line right here. The truth is this light green is the majority of what we're seeing of the highlight. And that's all it is, just the highlight. And so again, we're going to bring the smoothing tool in, smooth that out. That's just where it's the lightest in here. At some point in time, we're going to have to put in the pupil. Right? So we're going to put in the pupil. The pupil is absolutely black. The reason the pupil is absolutely black is because it doesn't actually accept anything except just the light. It's an absolute hole in your eye. So we don't get to, but you do get this neat effect of things going around it and stuff like that. We'll just spread that out and spread this through. It's so much fun. Right? We'll do the same thing over here. But one of the things that I like to do at this point in time is we're we're going to take this color and put this in here. And this should just tell me this is the color I want, because I'm going to have to come in here and sculpt through here, really. It's pretty much what I'm going to have to do. Alright, take this black. I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, so now we're going to go in here. We're just going to clean up in here and kind of push this out like this, push through like this. I'm just going to kind of go under like this and over like that. And that gives it this divot effect, like it's got kind of a divot. Most of our eyes do. The iris folds up like this and pushes. The muscles push, so you get a little bit of a divot inside there. And so we're just going to do that. We're going to divot it just a hair. Bring it up like this. There we go. Now when you draw eyes, obviously, you know, if they're like this, they just end up flat, right? But at least now he looks like a real person. Okay, time to put... At least it looks like he's looking at you. I feel like this eye is not quite as open as the other iris, so let's go ahead and make sure that's the case. There. Now, eyes reflect light. It's the way it goes, but when you're doing like comic eyes, it's like a dot and then a dot. And you're like, "Woo! Look, I did it! It's beautiful." But we're doing a realistic painting, so I'm going to need a different brush for this. Ideally, we'd want some kind of flat brush, and it's because the truth is that the way that this works is a very flat brush thing, and it looks great if you can get it to work. Like this rake brush here would be great. Kind of looking at some of the options of brushes that I've got in here. A flat going this way, that's what we're looking for, right? Looking for a flat that's going this way. I'm going to bring it down, because really we kind of want more like this, right? That's really kind of what we're looking for, is just a little bit of like that. Because our corneas have a lot of ability to take this light, and we want to make sure that we've got something going on either side here. Either these are cross lights or something to this effect. We really want that to be less straight up, right? And even that I'm not as happy with. Let's take a look. Well, we'll go back a long ways to get rid of that. I didn't realize how many little brush strokes we had there. Work, 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 work. There, that's the one. And I actually think I might go in there a little later. Now, the other thing is, don't use that. We don't want to use that. We want to use a light like there to get into this cornea section here like this. We're just going to... Here's maybe somebody standing right over here, huh? Kind of a thing going on right there. Yeah, a little bit of a thing going on right through here. So whatever it is I can see it. And this allows us to bring some more white to this very edge right here. Right. And just around this head right here. There. The other thing we want to start doing is, let's take a look and see how that looks. It looks too much like I just drew all over his eye. Alright, back to here. I'm going to do something to mark my position. There we go. The other thing we want to do is let's shadow in on his eyes. Same thing as before. We're going to just go in here. I didn't like that brush as much as I thought I would. And just do soft, round pressure size. We're just going to come in here like this. And this will help us define the outer edge of this eye, like this. And we'll be able to get just get in here and kind of make it look a little bit more like it's a rounded object. That's going to be important. Less like it's a flat object on his face and more like a rounded object. And that just gives a little bit of depth and reality to it. Go over here and do the same thing on this eye. The other thing you might be noticing is that I am pulling down more from the top than from the bottom. And of course that's mostly because I kind of want to get as much of that kind of thing going here as possible. So I want more of the shadow from the top of the eyelid in here and less of the shadow on the bottom. Doesn't mean I'm not going to merge this in. Definitely want to merge this in. Merge this down a little bit more through here. There. And then that way this all becomes sort of one kind of merge unit. And we'll fix the fact that it's all uniform here in a minute. There. Now what we can do, we can take and come back around with this black, or this dark, this very, very dark, and just draw a line in here. Right. Indisputable. Now we're getting a long ways in here. And the thing I want to also do is bring in some cross light. Like maybe the sun is coming from the right side. So, I'm actually going to bring a layer up on this because I'm pretty happy with this. We're going to try something new. We're going to try changing the hue to a warmer tone like this. We're going to talk about maybe bringing in some light across, say, maybe right through here, right? And don't worry, we're getting there. Through here, like this. We'll get there, right? We'll bring this around so that we're defining sort of parts of this side of him that have been lit up, right? He's got these great shapes across his face. So I kind of just want to see where I can define through here, right? Across this entire ear out here, right? Maybe just a little bit right there, And then do this, right? And then what we'll do, we'll take this and we can color dodge it. That's what we're going to try to do here, is we're going to color dodge, right? And that'll give a very bright effect to it. But then we can pull it back, right? But then I can take with this and I can run its hue and saturation, which is what we're going to do next. So bringing up the hue and saturation, we're going to bring that hue back, right? What does it look like? If I bring this more towards the reds, that's probably not what we're looking for. We want them to be warm. Very warm, not so saturated. Maybe a little bit of darkness to it, right? So what we'll do is I'll bring this back up to 100%, and then we'll run a hue set on it. It's probably too bright, so let's bring it down. Right? There we go. Now we're looking a lot better, right? I'll just follow the contours of his face here. Right, that's all I'm doing here, is just following the contours of his face. Everything is about following the contours of the face. Right? And now we're just going to bring this in, because I think his nose comes in a little bit more over here. There we go. We're getting there. We're getting there, guys. Look at this. We're getting there. I want to make sure I'm out of his eyebrows, though. because the eyebrows are not reacting well to the color dodge. So that's not coming over as well as I'd like it to, which is okay. The other thing we're going to do at this point in time is we're going to do a little bit of background, something background. I want it to be green. The major reason we want greens is because the greens are going to offset his skin color. So we're going to put in some green behind him. And, when you have the reds, like we do, greens are good for this. They're a great way to do these. And I'm not going to do anything serious yet. I mean, we're just going to put in some big green splotches just so that we can kind of have something behind him that doesn't look totally like, he's got this kind of some kind of tree thing behind him, maybe. Right. We'll give him maybe just a little bit of blue over here too, just to kind of offset this a little. Right. So now that we've done that, we've got kind of this backgroundish thing going for him. Here we go. Just adding a little bit of just something behind him. Like he's got a tree behind him or something. There. Give us a tree here. A little bit of tree. Some tree. Okay. We got kind of this going on. Let's go ahead and go back to our basic shading side. At this point, I like what this has done to this. So I'm going to go on ahead and take that, and that away. So that the basic shading is all we've got left. Control-Shift-E. Control-Shift-E merges all layers exactly as they stand. So now this color dodge is actually permanently in here. So if I were to take my smudge tool and smudge, we could smudge it into the color dodge now. And we've added this color now to the side. It's now a permanent addition to the side of his face, which is great because that's what we really want, right? And now when I come back through with the smudge tool up here, I don't have to worry about his eyebrows getting in the way. Right. There. We're just doing some minor tweaks now at this point, where we're just kind of cleaning up the painting here to the point where everything's good. Now we're going to have to go into highlights. Now I really want to, I've got kind of two sides to his face now, two colors here. We're going to do the same thing with the color dodge. We're going to bring up another side here, and instead of going to the light side, we're going to go to the dark side on this. The dark side. We're going to go to the dark side. And take a look at some of the colors that we've got, some availability here. And I'm going to try to do a blue on this side, right? So all I'm going to do here is the same thing we did before. I'm just going to kind of go through here like this and just kind of get the darkish side of his face. We did a nice yellow on this side, so we're going to do a nice blue on this side. We're just kind of darkening in, maybe even a little right there, right through here, right through here, right here, and then on down to his neck. And this layer, I'm going to put as a color darker, right? Color burn. Burn might be good, right? Looking at the burn, now I've got a very purple sort of side, and we'll do the same thing we just did. We'll go and we'll do the adjustments, and we'll do hue and sat. I'm going to kind of move along until I like what ends up on this side, right? I wanted something kind of a bluish, so like right there-ish, give or take. Blue-greenish. And we'll lighten it up. Same thing we did before. We'll lighten it up. A little bit more saturation. Not that much, though. Right? We're getting the same thing here. We're kind of just bringing in this blue here. But I'm going to actually kind of adjust a little bit more. Maybe over here. Right? There. That's more like the color I'm looking for. This is giving dynamics to this side of the face, right? Kind of going through here, we'll kind of head up like this, bring it around, and kind of bring it through. Just kind of dodging in this color. He needs a little bit of blue over here. Actually, I'm not liking that as much. Let's look at a darken. Maybe darken might be good. Maybe not. So we're just going to go through the mixed layers until we find the one we really like. I like the saturation. It does nothing. Luminosity. I think really it's going to be a, let's do a darken maybe? I don't know. But we do want some kind of we want blue over here. Maybe we just want it lighter. There we go. Maybe that's it. Maybe it can stay blue. Stay blue, people. It's the subtleties that make people realize that things are real and flat, or not flat, but real. So, like, when I bring this around like this, let's take this out of this zone, because I think this is part of what's got me kind of messed up, is this is not a blue part of your face through this part right here. Up here is blue, but not there. And this is generally blue on us, but not through here. And so I think part of this is just that this blue is, it needs to be in here, but it doesn't need to be this dramatic. And some of this can be a whole lot lighter. Like through here, and kind of de-bluify it a little. There we go. And that helps a whole lot. I'm kind of going here, like this area is going to be kind of a bluish color, and this area is going to be a bluish color. Right through here will be bluish. Boy, he looks very silly all of a sudden. This will be bluish. That kind of thing. Helping out with that kind of coloring, we're going to go ahead and really just real quickly do that. Because this will help a whole lot. Because I think I'm getting confused with my darkness and the blue, which doesn't need to be. Right, through here, and up here, and all on up here. Right, because this area, these are the hots and the colds of your head. So if we put this as a color dodge, we don't want that. We want it as an overlay. But we want it as a very light overlay. Right? Because that adds just the right amount of color to a face. And I think that helps a lot. It gives it dynamic and depth. I don't think we realize how much color is in the face. Through here. I'm just going to brush this on through. Let's brush this out. Just brush this in. I think it's funny how clownish he looks until you brush it all in and kind of smooth it in and stuff like that. An awful lot of color in our face. It's not stuff you think about, really. That's why colorizing a picture is actually not as easy as it looks. Right? Because we're kind of coming along here, coming along there, kind of doing this number right through here. There we go. I like practicing speed paints on things that we know we can do. I mean, this is an easy. I mean, I know I can draw up a card rather fast, so it's pretty good. Let's make sure that's nice and smooth. I know this is going to be rough, but we can really need to kind of make sure that this is smoothed in. Right here, and up through here like this. And these are just the dark areas of your face. There's not as much blood flow through this part of your face. So this area, like down here, will always be blue, and this area will be blue through here. It's not that there's not a amount of blood flow through there. It's just a little bit purpler. So we're just going to add a little bit of purple into this. It does look a little clownish right now, but we'll get it back. It'll be fine. This adds the right amount of what we see, and you register as. It's why we put eyeshadow. It's why our eyeshadow is colored. Is it accentuates or de-accentuates these colors, right? So when they're back down to 25% like this, it looks more accurate. It looks real. It's got some flesh, some actual, like, it kind of feels like it's a real person now. Right? As opposed to looking and I'm just going in here, just trying to bring up the red in his cheeks. Yeah, some just a little bit of red right through here and through here. This will bring up our color a little. We still have a little bit too dramatic of a red up here. I'm still feeling like this is more red than I need it to be. I'm going to really counter that. I'm going to go as blue as I can up here. Let's turn it purple. That's kind of funny. Okay. Now to counter that. To counter this. There we go. Much better. That was a little bit rough. But funny. Blue in there. That's just giving us a little bit of just push through this area. Clear this stuff out because we don't want it to go above into his the brow. The brow ridge up here can't be red. Right? I'm actually going to just smooth this in. And part of the reason this doesn't look so good yet is because he still doesn't have any eye shining in the eyes that makes it look like a human being. So we haven't gotten there yet. We will get there. We'll get there in the next 20 minutes. But for the moment, we're kind of here, right? So the big thing we're going to do at this next juncture is I'm going to drop this down just a little. Right there. Doesn't need that dramatic. I need to figure out what to do about this left side shadow. This side got it going on here. There. I don't have to worry about getting in there and doing that. We can do this. This comes across a lot better. There we go, just like that. And this guy might be kind of this color, maybe like that. What do we think? More of this shade. We're just going to try to define in these ridges right through here. Alright, this is high priority through here and down under here like that. We're just going to work this in. Okay, I just got that message from you, Fred, and I was actually responding to my kid and not you, so I would be more than happy to discuss that with you when we get to a point where we can. That's okay. Okay. I'm just bringing this up, and I'm just smoothing this in. It's not going to be this dramatic when we're done, but I'm liking this a whole lot better now that I'm just doing one side of his face. There we go. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. And that's something that also I had learned recently in painting was you don't shadow with black, you shadow with purple. Which was kind of counterintuitive. I wasn't sure how to go with that, but it's true. You don't shadow with black, you shadow with purple. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just putting in a shadow through this area. I'm going to smudge out this shadow because it has gotten into the wrong spot here. That's all we're doing here. We're just smudging in like that, right? That's another area that gets blue, is right through here and down into this part of your eye. It also gets blue right through that area. So, okay. The next thing we're going to need to do, we did a lot of refining in here, and painting takes a long time. So, we're going to have to, I mean, this is not a complete job here. We're going to get it done at some point. You can see definitely we've got the darker areas of his eyes now are brought in with that color gradient that we have, where we have the red and blue. And then this shadowing here is that. So without those two, we've got pretty much that. With those two, we get a lot more depth. A lot more of what needs to be done in this. I'm actually kind of feeling like I want to do a hue adjustment on this and make sure and see that is what we want on this. So let's do a hue set. Because I think if we spin the hue wheel, right, and take a look at where we are on this, we spin the hue wheel a little bit more over here. You get a lot more realistic flesh out of it. And then this guy should be a little bit more purple, I feel like. And this is why we keep these things on different layers for right now. You go more to the red, get a lot more of that. Right? You're getting a lot more of a kind of a realistic set of colors for the face. So we're going to go ahead and make sure everything's still off. I'm going to go ahead and flatten that in. We're still in basic shading, I feel like. We haven't quite gotten to all the colors of everything we want to do. Ooh. Okay, let's do the eyes. Let's get those eyes in. Because they are bothering me. The fact that I can't. He doesn't emote. And that is an issue. So we're going to down like this. I'm going to take a sketch pencil on this. He's not looking directly into the light, Caroline. So I'm going to have to. That one's a good one either. But now I at least have been smart enough to raise up one level. So, there are two layers of things that we want to see in here. We're going to have this very light green coming from that background. So we probably should put that in first. That'll probably help us a whole lot on this. Make it not feel so weird. Put but I do want something a little bit more than your average. Right, because this is from the background. Right. The trees all around him are giving some light, so we want the trees to be seen in his eyes. Alright, so we're going to do the trees in here. Right, that helps a whole lot right there. We do have, somebody has invariably put some kind of lighting on him for this photograph, and that's what we do. So we're going to just take this guy. We're going to just fly right there. There's just a little light right here. So he's going to light on the other side. And this is going to illuminate this part of his eye too. We're going to give some water down here. Everybody always has a little bit of tears or fluid right at the bottom of their eye, right like that, right? We do the same thing. So we got a light source right here, and some light source right there. And just do this to the eye, D. Right, give that fluid right here. A little bit of eye fluid right there. And that will make him look like he's... No, it just looks like he's got a bunch of lights in his eyes. Oh well. We'll get there. That's alright. If I do put some of this highlight, though, on him in general, like through parts of his body, we should be able to finish this up pretty quickly and do fine. I have a tutorial on eyes that I need to just figure out how to get to, because there's a good tutorial on eyes. There we go. So let's do that. Let's go ahead. So smart me, I just do that. Okay. Now we're getting there. Okay. So if we take, we're going to go through here. We're just going to select this and turn it around. That's not really turn it around. Let's turn it around. Come around. And we're just going to smudge that up. There. Now we're going to look at the light source that we've got behind it. The light source is probably something that looks like a square. We've been smudging everything else, and I don't know why we're not smudging this. But we are going to right now. So we're going to do this, and it's going to do that. I'm not going to smudge a lot, just a little bit on either side, just like that. Okay, then I'm going to take this green using, because this is a greenish light. Take this down. Just going to go in here like this and light it with this in here. Okay, and then come back into the smudge. And you're wondering, what's made the big difference here? The big difference was, I actually have a picture over here somebody had done of a cat. And the cat has this beautiful, it's hard to see, but they did this beautiful painting of this cat. And the cat had a light box in it, on it. But you can see that looks a whole lot better already. It doesn't match, and that's partly because we're not going to have it, you don't want it to be 100%, right? Like that, right? That's what we're really not. 50%. Same thing over here. I'm going to have this. It's not what I wanted to do. I have this, and then this. I'm going to do the same thing here. Just kind of define this box. Which this eye doesn't have as much on it. On this side. That'll come through here like this. And this time I'm going to just give, it's not quite so pressury, right? So I'm going to do soft pressure opacity. And that's just going to smooth this out without me needing to actually kind of do that. Right? Now the eyes look much more like they're supposed to. Getting a lot more realistic out of that. And the next thing we want to do is put the shadow that's coming in on here. Because we do actually have this shadow. It's coming in from around here, and it might look kind of like this. Right? The good news is we can smudge it a lot out here. And this is the shadow from the sun or whatever. Wherever we are, we're outside, so we've established we're kind of outside. I just want this to be darker. Right here. Right. That's all we're doing. We're just putting a little bit of shadow that helps this top part, which does seem to be weirdly defined. Take. Because you couldn't see the shadow before, it looked strange that there was just this, light source sitting out in the middle of nowhere. Now that we've got a shadow in here, your eye says, "Oh, okay, well that's a shadow." There. And that looks a whole lot better. Now, I'm going to also take another layer up. I'm going to go in here. And this time I really am going to come in with this white. I'm just going to, right, just along here. I actually have the wrong brush. I can tell. Wrong brush. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this soft, round pressure size. And this is what I was doing before when I was doing the eyes, having a little bit of water on each side here. It does have that. We get this like shine like this on either side. The eyeball is not perfectly round, so you get this light effect on the other side here. Just a little bit there. And I'll smudge that in. Right? Because that's just a little bit. We'll come over here. its inside edge gets it just like that. And then we'll come along here. Just and right through here. This is where and those are too bright for this, so I'm going to bring it back just a smidge. Right. Here we go. We're getting there. Alright. So now his eyes have got a little bit of shadow. They've got some highlights. They look like he looks like he's actually looking at you. And we're coming along nicely. And we'll save this where it sits right now. Let's put that background back in so you can kind of see what we're looking at here with the full painting. This is a good start. This is going to probably be about 6 hours of painting. And so this would be three sessions. We'll come back to this in a few weeks or whatever, and when we cycle back around again. But I've got to get back to work on Fred's thing. I've got to get back to work on the various other projects that are on my board. So we'll be doing a normal board. But tomorrow is Friday, so it's artist check-in. Let's see whether we've got Pepper or not. He may not want to come in for the whole 2 hours, so we'll find out. But instead, but for right now, we're doing kind of cool. We got a pretty good start on Peace Dew, which is what I think he wants to be called. I'm humored by that. It's not perfect, and it never, you have to practice. He still looks flat and not quite as good as I'd like him to be, but that's okay. We're good. We'll get there. So, that's where we are, and kind of looking at that painting, not unhappy with it. I think we're doing great. So, there you go. So, anyway, I will head on out now, and we'll go on ahead and move to lunchtime. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.